It's time for Bravo with Sheila, a place to be enlightened, a place to be built up, and always a place to remember that when nothing changes, nothing changes. Back. I know I didn't unmute myself. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Bravo with Sheila. I am so happy to be here with you tonight. We are here, me and my girls, we are here to have a nice conversation with you. Listen, if you have not touched yourself and given yourself a bravo, go ahead and give yourself a bravo. Wherever you need encouragement, just give yourself a bravo. You do not need permission. That's right. You do not need permission, right? You just give yourself a bravo. It is a wonderful night here on the East Coast, wherever you are in the world. God bless you. I hope that you are well. It's cold, cold, cold here in New York City, I tell you. But we are here tonight. We are here. You know that we're here to help move you from pain to power, for power to victory, to give you educational conversation, to give you uplifting conversation. That's what we do here. Whosoever will can come on in, grab a cool beverage, and come on and sit down and have a chat with us tonight. We're going to be talking about something. We're doing a reaction tonight because I really felt this was important. We've been doing the Africa series, and so we're going to continue that tonight we're doing a little twist with it. How are you doing, Brown Eyes? How are you doing? It's good to see you.
It's good to see you, and it's good to be here in the land of the living with such great information and great show going out to the people.
Yes, yes, it's going to be quite different tonight, just a little twist. Although we are still in our Africa series, Y'all have to forgive me because you'll see me looking at the side for a moment because I do not have my banner done yet. But once you and Anae start talking, I'm gonna do a sidebar and try to type in something so the banner can show. It's been a day of having me all frizzled and going through all types of things. It's just been one of those days. You know what I mean? How has your day been?
My day has been frazzled like your hey.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm traveling and helping some family move, and we're packing stuff up. I don't have the right computer. Chargers got packed by mistake. So it's been fun because it's always joy to be with family. So
yes, I'm sure you're having a good time. How's the weather where you are?
it's better than up north. So I still have to put my coat on, but like I said, with the moving, I've been able to just kind of keep my sweats on. But it's a little chilly, but just not as cold as, because I had snow before I left. So it was funny to get here and there wasn't any snow, but I made sure I hurried up and had my car washed, because I know you can't let that snow sit up there for too long.
Exactly. And you have a pretty car. So, you got it. The car is your baby.
I'm doing good. Had a crazy day today, but it was a fruitful day. So I'm happy, but I'm happy to be here, with you two and talking to some good information and learning something new as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're going to have a nice little chat tonight. This really struck got my attention. And I said, no, I said, I really want to talk about this and see what you ladies think about this. The continuing the Africa series and the Africans and racism in Germany. Those that have found their place and found their way in Germany, but what they experience and go through. We've been traveling through Africa doing different topics, having different guests, and learning so much about our brothers and sisters over in the motherland. And so this really struck my interest on understanding the Africans and the racism in Germany. I don't know, do you ladies know anything about that?
Well, I know
I
that they
don't.
have. I know that a lot of Africans have been experiencing racism all in a lot of different countries outside of Africa. I didn't specifically hear about Germany in particular, but I'm pretty sure that it's probably similar to what's going on in other countries like China and a lot of other countries that they're matriculating to.
Yeah.
And even in South Africa, surprisingly, there has been some down there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought this was, I'm typing as I'm multitasking. I should have got Nate to go backstage and type this, but I didn't do that. I'm
Well, I tell you, why I was a little bit excited to, share in this conversation is because I feel like I come from a place of like where I'm pretty naive to a lot of stuff. So
Mm,
there's some things that either just because I've kind of like sheltered myself, or just maybe not experienced as much as I hear a lot of people. This it makes me naive a little bit, and I do understand that. I know that some direct things that that I had experienced, I didn't experience until I moved up north and got on a tenant association in my building, and I didn't, because we had to work a lot with like the DC government and stuff, and
mm,
experienced a lot. So like just seeing what I, I I don't know if I want to say sheltered, but I mean it's not always a bad thing, but it can be. It can have you in certain rooms and certain conversations. It can have you maybe inconsiderate to other people, but not intentionally inconsiderate. So that's why I was really curious and wanted to kind of be a part, like expose my ignorance of stuff too, and just learn some stuff that I'm not aware of.
yeah, and what struck my attention was the different segments in this documentary that we'll travel through that runs right into where we are in America and people that we've heard of in our history understanding. So the description of this documentary that we're going to tap into, it says, uh-oh, I need to move this. Says that let me just read something, a backdrop to you. I was born in Germany. German is my mother tongue. I was in Africa just once in my life on a package holiday. This is something that Conrad Airborne, a student in Jena, was saying. Nevertheless, many people insist Urban can't be German because he is black, right? But Afro Germans have been living in Germany for a long time. Hundreds came from German colonies during the imperial period. Then it moves on and talks about during the Nazi period, the Afro Germans were misused in propaganda films. For example, they played alongside Heinz Ruhlmann in the film Quakes in Africa. So we're going to jump into it as we travel through this. You're going to see a lot of things about that happened in World War II, the Black U.S. troops. The children were put up for adoption. They were like, you need to give your kids up. You need to give them up. There's no need to keep them. So this is really, really a deep, deep, deep. When I looked and watched it, I had different types of emotions going on. Let me put up my little disclaimer because I hear NA telling me, "Where's your disclaimer?" Right? Let's put the
Tell.
disclaimer up before we jump into. Let's put this up. Okay. I did that. So now we want to just jump into this documentary. This, I think it's going to be so interesting for us to chat about this and to share our thoughts. That's what I really want, are your thoughts, you guys in the chat. I see some of you are up in the bleachers in the balcony, and maybe you bought an expensive ticket and you're in the orchestra. Welcome. You're not in the chat, but you are here, and I welcome you to the Bravo with Sheila Network. Thank you for being here. Hope you hit that thumbs up button on the way in. Those of you in the YouTube streets know that hitting that thumbs up button means a lot. So go ahead and do that for us. So let's get into this conversation, if we may. And we're going to share the screen and we're just going to talk a little bit. I'm going to play the intro. I want you to stop me. I want you to say, hold it. Let's talk about that. I want you to just share as we go forward. Let's look at the intro of this, ladies.
We see being German as something defined by skin color. Being German means being white, and those who aren't white are essentially newcomers and don't have the same right to be part of society as white people.
I was born in Germany. I'm a German native speaker. I've been to Africa once in my life as part of a package tour. It doesn't get more German than that.
People will, of course, ask me where I come from, and I say, from Cottbus. And your mother? I'll say, also from Cottbus. Does that answer your question, or do you still need that little piece of the puzzle that explains why I look the way I do?
In Britain, they say, we're here because you were there.
We're here because you were there. I think that's a very important part of the answer. Society here must take responsibility for what happened in its history.
This is exactly the right moment to look at Black German history and how it's always been a part of German history, an important part.
Abena Adomako's family is in its 5th generation in Germany.
Ah, these lovely old photos. You see here a typical old German household with wood paneling and fabric wallpaper. You can't get a better snapshot of German life than that.
In 1896, her great-grandfather Mandenga Dieck became the first African to acquire German citizenship in Hamburg.
Amazing. That pride. He was known to be very loyal to the emperor and very German. My family has a long history on its back, as it were, which means having experienced or having survived a lot. And the survival part is especially important, as is the fact that even back then they fought for their humanity to be recognized.
Can we stop right there for a minute?
Sure.
I just wanted to, interject before we go even further into it, because it's so deep, but it's so familiar. It's so familiar. I mean, like, I, myself learning tonight that I never even knew that there was a Black German history with the same like the Black American history. I mean, even down to the old pictures that she's showing and the clothes that they wore. It reminds me of the pictures we show during Black History Month here.
There you go.
You know, and it is really eye-opening for me, you know, because we think as African Americans here in this country that experience, that African American experience is only, privy to us here. But I'm seeing that there's a similar, almost, we know that there's racism all around the world, but just the similarity of the same type of story, how we're trying to be recognized as American, not just Black American. We built this country, and we want to be recognized as American and not just Black American to put, or African American, and say we belong somewhere else and not here, after our ancestors had fought so much and worked so hard to build up this country. So that's why it's touching me right here at this part, because all of the pictures and the beginning initial explanation of the hardship that they're feeling even till today, the same thing that we're feeling.
Absolutely. That's so good. And I'm so glad you stopped at that point, because when I first watched this, I was feeling so many different emotions and understanding that, how much we go through on this side of the world. But prior even to us being on the earth, the just the hardship and everything that our people, people of color, had to live through, much less out of Africa, but in Germany, right? Like, so that's such a good point. Such a good point. And there, you got anything?
Well, when she said to fight for your humanity to be recognized, that was deep.
Yeah.
That was deep. Like, you're just wanting to be recognized for just existing, and like, I'm looking at her. First of all, her name is absolutely beautiful. But there's so many features and things, like her hair is, it's like, so it's so many things that we look at and we have an appreciation for. And like, I'm appreciating her, but she's not being appreciated just
Right.
for her existence, her thoughts, what she can
Right.
share to the world. So I can't imagine
Mm,
just fighting just to say, hey, see me? Can you see me?
exactly.
So, yeah.
It gets better. It gets worse, whichever way we want to look at it. Let's keep it moving. And she's the main character, the main one of the main people telling this story, opposed, along with some others. Let's get back into it.
At what became known as the Berlin West Africa Conference in 1884, the European powers carved up the continent among themselves, without African participation. Germany then also became a colonial power, ruling over Togo, Cameroon, German East Africa, and German Southwest Africa. Even before the 19th century, Germans had been profiting from the slave trade. Now, colonists seized entire territories, culminating in a genocide in Namibia in 1904. Meanwhile, growing numbers of Africans were arriving in Germany. Robbie Aitken is a British historian who researches the history of Black Europeans.
The colonial period is important for the emergence of a Black community, because it was the first time that hundreds, if not thousands, of Black people were able to come to Germany. They came for many different reasons. Several hundred people, for instance, were brought over for the human zoos that toured Germany or across Europe.
From their first appearance in the 1870s, these ethnological expositions proved extremely popular with the European public. At the Hanover Zoo in 1913, Ethiopians were hired as contract workers. They were put on display, often with their families. Visitors paid an entrance fee to see them. As colonists were committing genocide in Africa, back home in Germany, the middle class were being won over to the so-called colonial adventure.
This exoticization, romanticization, this idea of, let's take the family to the zoo, like we know today. But instead of looking at animals, we get to see exotic people. Except these people weren't representing their own culture or communities. It was a staged spectacle and had nothing to do with who they actually were.
Wait, Sheila, do you mind pausing just for 1 second? I just don't want
I
to
was
get too
waiting.
far.
I was waiting. I was waiting. I
Wait.
was holding my. Listen.
The zoo, wait, the
Mhm.
zoo was the black people?
Mhm.
Ah,
Exactly. Mhm. Mhm. Stop,
okay.
pause, and reflect. Mhm.
It's the
Ah,
same thing that happened over here too. Same thing, same history on another side of the world. Same sad history.
Mhm. It's that just messed me up. I'm like,
and the arrogance of not even being subtle, you know?
exactly. They are making so much money, and people were spectacles, and they weren't people. They weren't human.
They weren't human. Yep.
Like she said, usually the zoo that we know, zoo with animals, right? From the wild, not human beings. I tell you all kind of emotions. Let's keep it moving.
The first state-organized colonial exhibition in Germany took place in 1896 in Berlin. 106 men, women, and children were brought in from German colonies. Photographs show how people were racially degraded and forced to be exhibited.
The colonial authorities wanted to portray Africans as less civilized, as primitive. They wanted to use this image to legitimize Germany's colonial project, their civilizing mission. The Germans bringing culture and civilization to Africans.
Berlin was the capital of an overseas empire. The colonial administration needed craftsmen, translators, and other specialized personnel. Young Africans were brought over to Germany for training, most of them men, and drawn from the African elite. Some were still just school children. Their parents paid considerable sums for their education. The new arrivals called one another compatriots, but they were not foreseen as a permanent part of German society. In 1891, Mandenga Diek traveled to Hamburg from Douala, Cameroon. He came from a wealthy family and could already speak German. He then completed an apprenticeship as a shoemaker.
He was expected to demonstrate his shoemaking skills in the big shop window. That made him feel like he too was on display, which made him feel very uncomfortable. So in the end, he changed his profession and became a merchant.
While traveling on business,
Oh, I'm
Diek
sorry.
met a woman
Sorry.
called
Uh-huh.
Emilia.
Got you.
Sorry.
Interracial marriages
Got
were
you,
banned in
got
the
you.
colonies for reasons rooted in racist ideology.
Got you.
But in
Mm-hmm.
Okay, wait. So his gift was making
There you go.
shoes,
Uh-huh.
but because he felt that brought too much attention to him, he watered down that gift to blend in with what was expected.
They placed him in a display.
Oh, okay.
And you heard what they said before that? That just disturbed me. That remark about they brought Africans there to civilize them and give them culture. Like as
Uh-huh.
if they didn't have, they were not civilized and they didn't have culture. Well, if they were not civilized, how did he learn how to have such a skill that he had? How did they learn how to know how to do so many things to help build these countries up if they were uncivilized and had to be cultured? That's like the biggest lie ever told.
Mm-hmm. Just detoured his purpose.
Yeah.
You know, he was gifted because we're gifted people. You know, he found, but he was forced to do something that he didn't have passion for.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. I tell you, I think we have like around 30 minutes left of this. Are you girls okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Gdansk, then Danzig in Prussia. The couple married and had 2 daughters, Erika and Doris. A highly respected Afro-German family, they ran a store selling tobacco and other colonial goods. The lives of Black people in Germany were of little interest to most historians until Katharina Oguntoya's work appeared. She was the first to research the stories of Afro-Germans, including that of Mandenga Diek.
I was astonished to discover that he was granted citizenship. I suppose it was so early on that there weren't yet objections from the colonial administration. Most of the people who applied later were rejected.
After the First World War, German imperialist expansion was brought to an end, at least for the time being. The Treaty of Versailles resulted in Germany ceding its colonies. At the same time, French troops occupied the Rhineland. Among their ranks were African soldiers, which German nationalists saw as a humiliation. They launched a racist smear campaign, calling it the Black Shame. That propaganda in turn fueled racism against all Black people across Germany into a far more dangerous form. But from the very start, there was resistance. In 1919, Germany's first Black train driver, Martin de Boba, and other people of African descent listed their demands in a historic petition.
He was part of the anti-colonial resistance, which had always been there. There was never a time when Black people didn't fight back or stand up for their rights.
Natasha A. Kelly is a scholar and activist who has documented the lives of people who brought about change in Black German history. Although Martin de Boba had sworn allegiance to the Weimar Republic, he wanted to achieve something new with the petition: equal rights for Black people.
Okay. You know, I have to just pause there. No matter what oppression, no matter what is dealt, no matter what hand is dealt, there's this thing innate that rises up at a certain point to cause a voice to be bold enough, to have courage enough to come forth and to say something and to do something. And it's not that many people don't have this in them. It's just the consequences for speaking up at such a time like that. And we know what that's like when you're the voice, you're subject to whatever's going to come your way. You have to make that decision when you're going to be the person to be the voice for the people. And so now we see a shift, right? Now we see a whole shift happening in this particular area by the same people you suppress. So check out how this gentleman, how God uses him in this position.
And you know what? Wait, before you start again.
Go ahead.
You know, he said, I think they said he started with this petition. And you know, like nowadays, like they have those, I think it's like change.org and things like that. So there's like power in paper, you know, signatures that can maybe get things moving too. So, okay.
Yes, it is power in paper because people still knock on doors at election time wanting signatures for the congressman. And, you know, they'll knock and say, can you please sign? We need 200 signatures. We need 1,000 signatures. So you're right. That is power and paper and pen in there. So true. Yes.
18 Africans living in Germany signed the petition to the German parliament.
They wanted young Africans to have the opportunity to attend university or college. They wanted, probably for personal reasons too, the recognition and legitimization of marriages between black men and white women. And they also wanted a permanent representative in the parliament, Martin de Bobe, to be precise.
The petition failed, but it marked the dawn of the first black movement in Germany. Mandenga Dijk was one of the men who signed his name. Today, those events are remembered on a commemorative pillar in downtown Berlin.
That's my great-granddad. I think it's fantastic, historical. It's such a good feeling to know that my great-grandfather was also part of the fight.
As the Roaring Twenties hit Germany, Black American dancer Josephine Baker became a celebrated figure on the stages of Berlin.
I always call it the grass skirt era. A black man had to walk around wearing a grass skirt, not a suit.
Born in Berlin in 1925, Theodor Vanya Michael was one of the few surviving black witnesses of the Nazi era, until his death in 2019. As a child, he was put to work in the circus and in the so-called human zoos. He hated being gawked at, or when complete strangers would run their fingers through his hair. Things got even worse with the introduction of the notorious Nuremberg race laws in 1935. Colonial migrants were stripped of their citizenship. Theodor Vanya Michael was issued an alien's passport and was rendered stateless. He lost his job at a hotel. Finding work became nearly impossible. One of the few exceptions was a niche market, the movies. The most expensive film of the Nazi era, Munchausen, required many black extras to play servants in a Turkish palace. The roles conformed to degrading stereotypes that furthered the Nazis' racist ideology. The young Theodor Vanya Michael played the Sultan's fanning boy. Only later did he realize he'd been exploited.
Exploited in the sense that I never played a positive role. I was only ever decoration. They needed exotic people. They needed us, and today we know we were exploited.
You know, I have to say something about this right here.
I'm waiting.
This exploitation thing, it really gets up under my skin because, you know, that happens so horribly, you know, so to so many actresses and actors and entertainers, even the one who I was named after, Nichelle Nichols. My mom named me after her because she was one of the first black women to break into television, and she had to fight her way to even want to stay in. And it was Dr. Martin Luther King that, you know, talked her into fighting to stay because she was an inspiration to so many other people. So that's why she continued. But the reason why this gets on my nerves is because they still exploiting young black men, especially in hip hop, you know. And as a person that does hip hop music, it makes me angry because as an artist back in the days, I, you know, used to be on tours and performing and everything. And when I went into the, you know, I got a chance to get in front of A&R, you know, at a record company, at 2 different record companies. And because my rap was positive, they told me that they couldn't sign me that way, that I would have to go into gangster rapper, and they would gangster rap, and they would have to change my image, you know, to suit what was sellable at the time, you know. And I said to them, I don't want to be a gangster rapper. And they said, well, what you're doing with the positive rap is called crossover rap. I said, well, since when does a positive message become crossover? Like I sold out because I want to say something positive. So when they see all these young rappers out here that's rapping about all of these, things like gang violence and, sex, drugs, or whatever it have you, some of them know and some don't know, but they're being exploited as well, even till
Absolutely.
today. Because they won't allow somebody, that has a positive message to get in the mix to become popular, because it's almost as if they don't want that positive image of a young black person to be out there. And
They
I
don't.
experienced that as a black woman and as a hip hop artist, and I see that it's still happening, today,
Yeah.
even in some acting roles.
Yeah, it's designed that way. It's
Yeah.
designed to use our people, and because the higher you go up in the game, in the rap game, you
Hmm.
have to do what is you're told. And so
Right.
they want you to spit those raps that will turn our children into criminals because they have a money thing with the jail system. So it's a whole big thing. That's why they're building a new jail over there in the Bronx somewhere.
Yeah.
And with rap, as long as you can give that negative, 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 and our kids, flock to it and begin to spit it and use it, it becomes a part of them,
Yeah.
right? It becomes a mental thing, and whatever purpose or whatever was going on is shifted to the side because this other negativity is taking up the residence in them. And so, rap, you're right, they don't want rap. With my artist, Ty Dre, you heard us play Goat Mode and some of the stuff that we play
Hmm.
here. They said, you're gonna have to do something with this because you're too positive. And we were like, no, this kid was coming out of college. He had a great message. It's like, well, you're not gonna go far. I mean, they literally told us this and told him that, but he stuck to his guns. I said, we can break that down. If we just cop out, that means that, the next kid coming up won't be able to get through because of the message. And now look what's happening. A shift is happening, and they want more positive rap. They want more positivity because
Yes.
certain people are tired of seeing gun violence and the kids dying and mothers are burying their children,
Yes.
And
And
so
you're
I
so right.
understand that you walk through
Yeah.
that, and you're
Yeah.
right.
I walked through it and I'm living it to this day, because even at this older age, when I thought I would be retiring from hip hop, when people see me perform now, they like, oh man, that's real hip hop. That's what we need to
Mhm.
hear. But that's not what they told me 20 years ago.
There you go.
But now I'm in demand at my older age when I've got to learn how to breathe again to
Ow.
say all those words, in one sentence. Now they want to hear the positive stuff. I'm like, wow, and then I see this,
Mhm.
this why this scene right here just hit me real deep, because the exploitation is so real, because I lived it. I
Yeah.
lived it, and it's hurtful. It's not only hurtful to the person, but it's hurtful to the people. You
I
know,
saw that rap you did the other day at that event. Let me tell you. Let me tell you. I said, look at that. And I know, as with rap, people don't understand the art of it. They think y'all just get up there and just say words, but it's a breathing that you have to do. There's a holding, like I hold a note, you gotta hold the air to get the whole line. And I don't know how you rappers remember all those lyrics. I give you a huge bravo. Clap it, everything, because it's
thank
an
you.
art to it. And that I wish, next time you come on, I want you to send that clip to me because I would love to play it. I would love to play it.
Okay, no problem. I'll definitely send. I love to share it.
Yes, please, please. And there, you got anything before we continue?
Yes, something that he said that stuck out. He said something like, I didn't realize I was exploited. And a lot of times when we're exploited, we don't even realize it. We're just doing something because he was just probably excited to be in this movie.
Right.
So sometimes we don't realize it until we in it, and we're in it so deep that we got to make a decision. Do I stay here kind of enjoying some of the perks or some of the things that I'm benefiting from
Mhm.
because of this? But if I
Hmm.
stay in it, I lay this foundation of certain things that are acceptable for my people or for my group, that they're going to have to like fight through to get, to prove otherwise. So I just thought that that was really profound.
Yeah.
And you just sometimes don't even realize it. You like, if somebody says, "Oh," like you talking about with rapping, hey, well maybe okay, you don't say this curse word, but say this curse word, or you don't perform in this setting, but perform in this one. And then when you keep saying, "All right, well I'll do it because it's not that bad," you just keep inching it to
Ah,
more and more. So I thought that that was a profound statement.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We got Landon in the house. We say welcome, welcome, welcome. We
Hey,
got Landon
Landon,
in the
Sandra.
house. We got M. Mills, Sandra, Birthright is in the house, and those up there
Hello.
in the bleachers. Let's get back into it. Let's get back into it. All right.
Supremacy was celebrated in many Nazi colonial films. The regime had plans to reconquer former overseas colonies. Quacks in Africa was one of many films to degrade black people and use overtly racist dialogue. In this clip, the protagonist gestures to the people approaching and says he's seen them before, quote, at the Berlin Zoo. Afro-German actors were routinely cast in such roles. The medicine man was played by Louis Brody, the grandfather of Abena Adomako.
My family and a large number of African people here only survived the Nazi era because they were needed for these German colonial films.
From 1939 onwards, daily life became increasingly dangerous for black people. The Deeks were among many families who lost their home and had their passports revoked. Mandenga Deeks' business went bankrupt. Interracial couples faced persecution. Around 400 children fathered by black French occupying troops were forcibly sterilized. Many black people were forced to go into hiding. At least 2,000 were killed in concentration camps. The Afro-German community was being eradicated by the Nazis.
The aim was to ensure that there wouldn't be another generation of black people in Germany. And more importantly, that there would be no black Europeans.
Oh my God.
In the wake of the Second World War, the Allied occupation forces in Germany included a number of black troops from the United States. After 1945, about 5,000 children were born to black American soldiers and German women in West Germany. Into the 1950s, the children were still the subject of anthropological research.
It's very important to understand that this idea of so-called races being unable to mix stemmed from earlier German colonial times. It was an idea that prevailed well beyond the Second World War. Suddenly, it was the children of the Allies that now posed this problem again.
Hey, just do you mind 1 second, Sheila? Let me just ask
Sure,
a quick
just
question.
tell. That's what I want you to do. That's what I want you to do. Stop, pause. Let's go ahead. Yes.
Okay. Did I hear earlier when they were talking about the petition? I thought I heard him say something like that black men wanted to be with white women. And it seemed odd to me that he said that and not like interracial dating or marriage. It was black men with white women.
Mm.
You know, it was, I wonder like what that mindset was that black men saw white women as a trophy. Like, was it just automatically assumed that black women would, mix or like that? I thought that that was interesting. And now we're seeing all these where they're saying that there were a lot of, interracial relationships now.
Yeah.
But from the picture, it looked like I was seeing more black men with white women. I just
That's a
wanted to
good
make
thought.
sure I connected that earlier thought with this one. And I just
Yeah.
wondered what it was with black women. Like, was their position that they desired or wanted the freedom to be able to date white men? I wonder what that thought process was there. So sorry, I just wanted.
No.
Connect
That's
that.
what we're
Yeah.
doing. We are interjecting, tearing this apart in whatever way. Because I'm saying, like, yeah, that's a thought. That's a thought.
Well,
Because
see,
they're
black
not.
men have always been feared, because of their size, their strength, their build, their deep voices. And so it's always been a fear factor of, them wanting to be with a white woman. Like a lot of white men felt inferior to them and felt like they wanted their women and to be, them and take over their lives. And that's why you have so much racism out there now from different male groups and KKK and stuff like that, because they feel like black men will be a threat to their family life and their environment.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let's go.
Besondere Gruppe bilden die 3093 Mischlinge.
In this archival sound from 1952, a West German parliamentarian uses a racist slur in reference to more than 3,000 biracial children. She says they, quote, present a special type of human and racial problem. Even our country's climactic conditions are unsuitable for them, end quote. Hundreds of children were given up for adoption, mostly to families in the United States. This West German television report from 1957 featured a single mother.
Na gut, aber wenn die Kinder mal größer sind, was stellen Sie sich vor, was sollen die Kinder denn werden? Ihr Kind kann doch nicht zum Zirkus gehen, oder glauben Sie, dass das eine Lösung ist, wenn Sie Ihre Kinder später mal zum Zirkus gehen? Ja, und haben Sie noch nie den Gedanken gehabt, Ihre Kinder mal adoptieren zu lassen? Sagen wir, wollen Sie nicht weggeben? Nein. Na, warum nicht?
Weil ich sie am Herzen getragen, weil ich mir Kinder gerne habe.
Imagine.
Erwin Kosteda was one of these children born after the war. He would go on to become the first black man to play for a German national team. His father was an American GI.
I was born here. My mother is German. I feel German, honestly. For me, playing for the German national team was the greatest.
Erwin Kosteda was born in Münster in 1946. His 6 older siblings were all white. He never got to know his father. On his way to school, people would routinely give him the Nazi salute. The countless racist remarks still haunt him today.
It was hell, absolute hell. Even women. When I'd go into a shop and maybe misbehave a little, they'd say, "Come on, black kid, go back to Africa." That was how it was, day in, day out.
Wow.
I was meant to be put in a home, but my mother refused to send me away. And honestly, she had guts. 6 white children, and then a black one comes along. And people point at you.
Football offered a chance to escape the humiliation because Erwin Kosteda was good, extremely good. He played center forward in Germany's top division, the Bundesliga, and scored the goal of the season in 1974 for kickers Offenbach. Later that year, he played for West Germany's national team in a European Championship qualifier in Malta. But back home, fans of rival teams continued their racist chants unabated.
Okay. So once again, his talent, because they could use him, because he was an asset to them, caused him to be accepted, to take them higher in their status in the so-called World Cup or whatever. But yet inside, he was still this beat up person in his emotions. And no matter what he did, even going back home, they still saw him as nothing.
Wow.
And all his brothers and sisters were white. Can you imagine the weight as a kid to carry that? Like,
And it sounded like they said too that like even how he was being mocked on the team, like it wasn't even like his teammates or the organization was even trying to defend it or stop it, either.
Right.
So
sad.
That goes on, and that's a terrible history of, you like my music, you like my style, you
I
like
was waiting
my
for you to give that
swag,
example.
you like everything about what I do, but you don't like me.
You
Like, I
don't
never
like me.
understood that. I
Yep.
never understood that. Like, even with hip hop music, nobody liked hip hop music when it first came out. It was garbage. It was not music. It was, it was a ghetto music. It was this and that. But
Right.
now it's amazing how 50 years later you have so many people trying to claim hip hop. Like, as if African Americans did not start that from disco and funk. We can't even own what they now see blew up to be a national phenomenon. We can't
Because
even own it
yeah.
because now we got people want to stick themselves in the
But
history.
they benefited.
I
They
created it.
benefited from it. They
Yes.
benefited. I
Yes.
remember I was coming out of the music business, not coming out, but with me in the 80s, I didn't switch to rap, right?
Right.
Or be a part of that. I was a singer,
Right.
right? And so my era, I saw me fading away because I wasn't called to be a rapper, right? And at that point, there were rappers opening up for me. Fearless Four, Curtis Blow.
Love
They
it.
were my opening acts.
Right.
But what they had to fight against, and they were labeled as trash, nobody of that other persuasion wanted them in their businesses, their clubs, or whatever.
Yeah.
But as it became like fire, right? And it just spread across everywhere. They couldn't do nothing but accept it. But then when they saw the money involved, like
Right.
even with the Grammys, they wouldn't let them on the you guys had to, none of you were not accepted. But once the money started flowing,
Yes.
they made room for you.
Yes.
They made, because it wasn't about, to this day, they are in back rooms talking about the rappers. When the rappers on them stages, BET and the Grammy, you think them big shots is talking about, yeah, didn't know. They back there saying, oh, I can't wait for this show to be over. I can't wait for them to get off the stage.
Right.
Because they don't, they can't get with it on that level, but because they can't ignore it because it's a cash cow. It's a cash cow.
Exactly.
It's so much money.
There's so
How
much
can
money
they,
into it. Yeah.
how can they forget? How can they not? So now they open doors. And these are the same people that tell rappers what they want them to say so that they can infuse our young people, and so that it can spin, and prisons can be just continuously a cash cow.
Yes.
Right? So it's a cycle. It's a vicious cycle. It's a vicious cycle.
And
My
not to mention, they're taking insurance out on their artists now, so that if anything happened to them, they get insurance money off of them. Plus,
I
they
didn't
get
know
all their
that.
royalties. Oh yeah, the hip hop, or they take out insurance on them now. So if something happened to them because they got a beef with another rapper or whatever, they get insurance money off of them.
Wow. $1 million policies or
Yeah,
better.
big time.
See, oh wow. That's pretty deep.
There have always been nasty remarks, trust me. You need to be pretty tough in Germany sometimes. There was a section which always shouted, 10 gays and one.
The media celebrated him, but always as an outsider.
The brown bomber. They could have written the bomber, and not the brown bomber. There always had to be something.
In 1990, Kostada was wrongly accused of robbing an arcade. A football fan claimed to have recognized him from his skin color. There was no actual evidence to support the case. Kostada was acquitted after spending 6 months in custody.
Wow.
I think I was the first black child to start school in Cottbus, and Cottbus had a population of probably 40,000 at the time. I don't remember seeing a black person before I was 10. I didn't even know there was such a thing.
Gabriele Wilbold was born in communist East Germany in 1962. Her father, a student from Ghana, left the GDR. She was raised by determined women, her mother and 2 grandmothers. She was a very good student and was selected to be a school crossing guard. This is amateur footage of the proud family.
There was something different about me, but I learned that from others. It wasn't anything I felt myself. What I saw was, they all play like me, I do math and gymnastics the same way they do, yet something was different about me. It was not something that was discussed at home. It just wasn't important. And you could see it.
Millionen rote Rosen und nun noch eine mehr für die schwarze Rose aus Alabama. Angela Davis zu Besuch in der Deutschen Demokratischen Republik.
Angela Davis became the face of black power in East Germany. The American scholar, civil rights activist, and communist was wrongfully imprisoned in the U.S. until her acquittal in 1972.
All right.
Angela Davis had a huge impact on my life. When I look at the photos now, the afro look was all the rage back then. And of course, I had an afro and I wore glasses. And wherever I went in the East, somehow I was always Angela Davis. It was a political struggle taken up by the GDR that was good for me.
In the late 1970s, East Germany recruited a growing number of workers from Vietnam, Angola, Mozambique, and other fellow communist nations. More than 200,000 people total by the time of German reunification. But they were obliged to go back home after a few years, and the authorities did not envision their broader social integration. Gabriele Wilbold's world remained a largely white one.
They weren't supposed to assimilate. The foreign workers were housed separately from the rest of the population. So it wasn't like you were suddenly seeing a black person in the supermarket or the swimming pool.
Gabriele Wilbold studied medicine and was already a qualified doctor when this footage was taken in the early 1990s. She always wanted to be a gynecologist, but the local authorities stipulated that she specialize in hygienic care, despite the country's shortage of gynecologists at the time. Wilbold protested.
I suspected it was because of my skin color. Being a gynecologist means close physical contact with people, while as a hygiene specialist, I'd be sitting in an office and basically out of sight. I said I could see absolutely no reason to not be working in my chosen field.
She took the issue to the next level, threatening to send a complaint to the East German head of state, Erich Honecker.
The upshot was, 2 or 3 weeks later, I received a letter informing me that they were happy to comply with my request, because the city really did need more gynecologists. So, I became one.
That's powerful.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's very powerful.
They needed him and then just didn't take her.
Yeah. Exactly.
For the color of her skin.
Exactly. I think, I don't know if they said it already, they didn't want a black person touching a white woman's private parts or something like that. Or like, you know, I mean, And the fight in us that, that,
Yes.
and it's always one that the Lord will use to shatter a ceiling
Mm-hmm.
for everybody to come through, right? And I'm so happy that she took it to the next level. Let's get fun. Let's finish with this.
Yeah.
Das bin ich jetzt dann eben auch geworden.
Abena Adomako grew up at the same time as Gabriela Wilbold, but in the other Germany, in West Berlin. After jobs in Paris and London, she started working for an international NGO. As a young woman in the 1980s, she wanted to become an optician and asked a friend for help in finding an apprenticeship.
She was very embarrassed when I asked again whether she could find someone to take me on as an apprentice. She said no. Unfortunately, they told me, yeah, we know you, but people aren't ready for black hands to be poking around in a white person's face.
This is the one. This is the one. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Did you hear that?
Yeah. Yes.
Let's keep going.
It was a big shock for me, and very awkward for her too. It was the first time I realized it wouldn't be easy to do the job I wanted.
Den Beruf auszuüben, den ich machen möchte.
Abena Adomako wanted to stop feeling like a stranger in her own country and went looking for people who felt the same way. In 1985, she met a group of women connected to the American poet and queer civil rights activist Audre Lorde. Lorde was a guest lecturer at the Free University in West Berlin who encouraged Black women to discover their community's history and celebrate their heritage.
It was like an epiphany, a relief. We were all there with our shyness, our needs, our experiences, our desires, sadness. It was great. It enabled us to break out of that isolation. And that sense of community carried us.
Ja, ich glaube, wir
You
kamen
know,
so
and
aus
I feel like
yeah,
I have to say something about, because I feel like that, you know, that music and that gathering and that fellowship that you just saw happen in so many ways to keep so many of our ancestors strong and moving forward. Because I remember I saw a movie where they had hung a man, a husband, I forgot what movie it was, in front of everybody to teach them a lesson to not try to run away. And when they came back around, they saw the people outside singing, and they were asking themselves, you know, after what we just did, how could they be out here singing? You know, like it's like all of the pain and all of the anguish that went into gospel music, crying out to God, all the songs that were created, you know, during their pain, but they was able to make a song and bring good vibes that even, you know, deliver us till today. You know, when we hear some of them old songs, I know we got contemporary new gospel music and everything, but it's those old songs that they put their true sweat, tears, and blood into that will move you like no other song.
Absolutely.
You know? And those girls were fellowship and they were dancing, and she said,
that's true.
Right in their pain, they got together, and that's what made them be able to get through it, you know? So I can relate to that in so many ways as somebody who loves music, you know.
Yeah. And so that's
the
important about village, having a village.
Absolutely.
You know, having a village. You know, we call it our village now. You know, where's your village? Do you have one? And so many, you know, a lot of that has even gone by the wayside, having a personal village, you know, or the commitment to the village, or the loyalty to the cause, or the loyalty to the secrets that you hold within the village. Right.
Yeah.
But you know what I used to say, Sheila? Is I used to, when me and my friends growing up, we had a problem, we were depressed about something, I used to always say, let's go have music therapy. Because even when you by yourself, if you got a problem, somebody wrote a song about it.
That's
That can
true.
help to uplift you. I don't care what issue or what you're going through, relationship, whatever,
That's
lost your
true.
job, somebody wrote a song about it.
Yeah, get those. That's how you get, get free and get that pain out of you. By most
Yes.
people's hit songs are pain songs. You
Yes.
got something in there?
Oh no, when I saw Brown
Oh.
Eyes, I could saw when she started shaking over there. That music started playing. So, but no, it's something about music that it joins people, and
Right.
it's sometimes like you got to find. I like that she sought out a space where she could be herself.
Yes. Yes.
That, like what she said, they had common goals,
Yeah.
frustrations, hurts and things. So sometimes you gotta, hey, who can relate to what I'm going through? Because you don't want to be around people that are thinking, oh, well, you should just accept this. Oh, well,
Exactly.
they said they don't want, Black people touching a white person's face. Accept that. So she needed to be
Yeah.
around people that encouraged her ambitions and stuff. So
That's so
that was
powerful how
powerful.
she
Yeah.
finally found a space, a safe space. And music is therapeutic. It is.
Yes.
It was like we'd been existing in a room with no air. But when we met Audre Lorde, the African-American poet, she was simply interested in our lives and suggested that we introduce ourselves to each other and to the world. That was quite a big deal for Mai and me, as we were still very young.
And at the first meeting, there would be 30 persons, and they would be very excited because for everyone, it would be the first time being in a group of other Afro-Germans, people who have the same experience, who could, without talking about it, would understand you. I know it makes you smile when I say it, but it's true.
Together with activist Mai Aim, Katarina Oguntoya wrote a book called Showing Our Colors. The project helped them to develop a positive self-image. At the same time, Audre Lorde urged them to self-identify as Afro-Germans or Black Germans.
It was important because until then, we'd always been objectified in society. People talked about us. We were the subject of various political and academic debates. And I think the Showing Our Colors project was the first time we were leading the narrative, using such a political voice too.
It was the start of the second Black movement in Germany, with the founding of the Initiative of Black People in Germany, and later its sister organization, ADEFRA, for Black women in Germany. '89 saw the fall of the Berlin Wall, and a time when many hoped for a freer and better life. Just over a year later, not long after German reunification, the eastern town of Eberswalde made headlines. A mob of more than 50 neo-Nazis attacked young African contract workers outside a local restaurant. Amadeo Antonio from Angola was beaten into a coma, with one of the attackers stamping on his head. Antonio died 2 weeks later at the age of 28.
Looking back, I just feel really heavy. Seeing a colleague and brother who lived with us die, just because he was Black.
Like his friend Amadeo Antonio, Yona Mununga stayed in the country after the collapse of the communist regime. They'd both come to East Germany from Angola as contract workers in 1987. Both had hoped to study. Antonio wanted to be an aircraft engineer. Instead, he ended up working at a meatpacking factory.
Okay. I think we've seen enough. I think we've seen enough. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this was something I thought was very interesting. And a lot of times, I'm interested in people, right? interested in the lives of people, what they've walked through, how they've got from point A to point B, and and what happened in between A and B. How did it affect you? How did you rise above it, or have you risen above it, or are you just going through the motions? Because your root system is what builds it. You grow up with your root system, and the sap in the roots and the trunk of the tree, if it's contaminated, at some point it's going to show up in your life.
Yeah.
And if you're born in a certain era or a certain location, a certain geographical place, as people, we've all gone through something, right? Understanding what we just saw, what we just witnessed and found out about, I thought it was very important to talk about it, to show it, and to share it, and to have us to kind of give our views about it. It leaves a sadness in your heart, a little sinking. Although we've risen above so much, I know it's like 10 minutes more to the story, but we've seen enough to understand what the Afro Germans, as they say, went through at that time, at that era, and how it's transitioned to even today. There's so much interracial couples in Germany. It's nothing to see interracial couples. I've traveled to Europe a lot, and Curacao and Amsterdam, and it's normal seeing biracial babies,
Yeah.
seeing, you know, children who are biracial, and seeing what they go through. But it has changed a lot. But look at the pain, and look at how it had to segue to this part. I think it's one thing that I wanted. Let me see something. If I stopped it was one thing I wanted to, let me see if it's here, if I could skip it.
Antonio fell in love with a German woman and was looking forward to soon becoming a father and building a family. Amadeo Antonio was the first murder victim of right-wing violence in reunified Germany. More attacks would follow in both the East and the West. Yona Manunga remembers the atmosphere back then.
Was ist mit mir? Also, wenn ich auf
What
die
about
Straße
me?
gehe, also es kann passieren,
If I went
so wie
out on the
Ihnen
street,
passiert.
the same thing could happen to me.
Und dieser Moment war wirklich für uns
That was a
sehr,
really bad
sehr
time for us.
schlecht. Darum sage ich, das war ein
It
Krieg.
was like war.
Bei uns war ein
And
Krieg.
in war,
Also, wenn
you
man
don't know
im
when
Krieg
you're
ist,
going to
weißt du
die.
nicht, wann du stirbst. Oder
Or
wann
when you lose a leg or an arm.
ein Arm oder so. Das ist so wie mit uns
We were
war.
terrified back then.
Angst war sehr, sehr groß.
Youth club on the corner.
There's
Somehow,
something I wanted to
issue
show
that's
you,
motivated the community.
but
I remember my childhood as being full of life. I never experienced the time in refugee. And I think, what
Yeah,
does
this
that
is
have
the
to do
end.
with the fact that at this very moment, someone somewhere is probably having problems with immigration authorities or being racially abused on the street? This pretending that these issues are all fixed just because you have some individual figurehead is very problematic.
Today, 1/5 of all Germans have migration backgrounds. Aminata Touré encourages minorities to become politically active.
At the heart of the issue is the question of who's allowed to be part of society, and what does it actually mean to be German? In the words of Afro-German poet Mai Aim, who instead of asking questions, simply states, I will still be African, even if you want me to be German. And I will be German, even if my blackness does not suit you. I will go yet another step further, to the very edge, where my sisters and brothers stand, where our freedom begins. I will go yet another step further, and will return when I want, how I want, borderless and brazen. Thank you.
Yeah. So you see, the young people are coming up and speaking and standing in parliament in different places that normally they would not be able to have a voice. So
Yeah.
she has made a difference and continues to make a difference and continues to speak to her peers and her, people around her to have a voice, because it's still hard. It's still a sad situation for
Yeah.
young men and young women, not just in this country, but everywhere,
Everywhere. Mm.
everywhere. And
What stuck out in that section was when she said something like, you think that because there's one person that made it or someone that they are respecting, that it's like, okay, accept that, all of y'all shouldn't want something. And I think that happens, really honestly, even like to today. People feel like, oh, well, don't say anything about it because at least this person got it. At least we got one,
there you go.
So then you don't still fight, because even if you do accomplish something, you want it where you can have it where it's not so hard for somebody behind you to,
Right.
go through the same thing, for you to just get the decency of what you deserve, what you've earned, So that part stuck out to me,
Yeah.
because I think that we can all fall victim of, wanting to kind of marvel in one person's success or
Mm-hmm.
one accomplishment, but we got to keep, it's like, okay, all right, we got it. All right, now let's move on. Let's get somebody else. Let's get something. Let's get some more. So that stuck out.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, keep it moving. What about you, Brown Eyes? You know what? This has been like so good. This has been so
Yes.
very good. I
Yes.
knew that this would be a wonderful, wonderful thing to talk about. The um, Africans going through persecution and racism in Germany.
Yes.
And we watched the paper trail from the beginning. We went back, I think, from the 1800s and all the way through up until today. And I
Mhm.
just want to thank you, ladies, for being here tonight and
Thank you.
sharing. Going to be doing more. I have another one in the can that I'd like for you to come back and talk about. I have another one in the can, and I've already kind of posted it. So I think this is awesome, because to educate, right? To educate and share, and
Mhm.
to give a stop, a pause, and reflect, a thought, because sometimes we can become so selfish and not selfless, and thinking that because we don't know a person, or we don't have anything to contribute. But words are powerful, encouragement is powerful, and you just never know who's listening or how healing is being brought to them by just one thing. And so that's what I'm totally about. I love people. I love to
Mhm.
hear the lifestyle and see what people have gone through, and to help move them from pain to power and from power to victory. And you know what I always say: when nothing changes, nothing changes. And I fumbled and put the banner up tonight, but that was a fumble.
That's
that, was,
okay.
that was a fumble, but I did. Actually, this broadcast was for informational purposes only, right? To encourage, to
Mhm.
enlighten, and to just be a blessing to your life. It's so much to talk about. I'm going to have you as a little crew coming up with me to talk. I just thought it was wonderful to talk about this. So I'm going to give you the last words, Brown Eyes. Thank you so much, my sister. You have so much to offer. I really appreciate you. I know you came in, ran in, and jumped on, and I so appreciate you. So I'm going to give you, I'm going to digress so that you can have the last final words. And then my dear sweet Ine, who's doubled multitasking, being a moderator and and on the on the panel, then I'll let you.
Working hard.
Yeah, always. She's the best moderator in the streets, in the YouTube streets, right? So go ahead, Brown Eyes.
Yeah, I just want to say that I know that in this life we all was born with a purpose and for a reason. And to end my ending quote for it all was, I've been through many situations where God had to reveal to me that some people that wasn't standing up in the fight that would benefit us all was because it wasn't purpose for them to be a fighter. We have our fighters, we have our other people who will do background supporting and other roles in his life, and the fighters are going to be on the front line and the helpers are going to be wherever they're going to be. And so everybody's fight look different, everybody's support look different. So I don't want people to be discouraged if they feel that people are not standing up with them. All you have to do is stand, and God will bring the rest to you to be able to fight for whatever that fight is, to bring the good for everybody.
Well said. Well said.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Miss A.
This, I'm telling you, when you reached out to me about this one, the first thing I thought to myself, I was like, oh man, I can't come up here and talk about history. But you don't have to be a scholar in the subject of history to appreciate history and to know that you're responsible for being a part of history going forward.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that you even brought this up. Like, this is, I would never have seen this. I would never have seen this. And I don't know if you saw my comment where I was saying one of the women that was speaking, when she talked about being the first Black student in the school, it's like, like Ruby Bridges, so there's so many parallels in this video that I saw and what we've seen here. So it's like the spirit of hate, of struggle, it's not unique to a location. It's in your heart. And what I pray is that people recognize our oneness, how we are the same, appreciating the things and places where we're different, and that understanding that your fight is not just for you. It's for many. You plant seeds for other people. Sometimes it's gonna be tough, and there are some soldiers that like you and Brown Eyes. I just humble myself to how y'all are willing to step out there, and you're so willing to take front stage, and we need people just like y'all to just stand out there and say, you know what, I got to push through this. I see that there needs to be a gap filled here, and I'm willing to step in there and fill that gap. So I thank both of y'all, and it was an honor to just be on the stage with both of y'all.
Oh, thank
so
you.
sweet. Thank you.
Blessings to you.
Bless you. And those of you in the chat, and those of you up in the expensive seats in the orchestra, you might be in the balcony 1 or 2. You're still here. And like I said, you might have just bought a very expensive ticket and you're in the orchestra, right? We thank you so much. I hope you hit that thumbs up button. Thank you for being here. Now the chat. Let's talk to the chat. We don't do anything and we don't close out if we don't talk to the chat. Let's just recognize some of the folks that we didn't recognize earlier. Let's talk the better Black life is in the chat.
Hey, Brother
These
Clarence.
are Inae's people. These are Inae's people. Brother
Hey, wait.
Clarence, you see what
I'm
he
sorry,
said
just
to
real
you.
quick. Look at the private chat just for a quick second. I mean, keep going, but just look at my private chat just for a quick second. Okay.
Yes, I knew you would catch it.
Okay,
I knew
okay.
you would. I
Okay.
knew you would. I knew you. Listen. I saw it and didn't even say anything because
Okay.
I knew you would catch it. I knew you would
Okay.
catch it. Yes. And so your brother says, at Inania, oh, you off the porch. I'm telling.
Hey, Brother Clarence.
Thank you, Sandra Birthright, for being here. Good night, everyone, and thanks. I'm going to put these comments as we roll out, as we always do. Brother Clarence says, just got to the party. Just got to the party. It's okay. I thank you so much for being here, all of you. And so as we roll out, we're going to put on one of our little hot, I think we're going to play, let's play GOAT mode, right? We're going to play GOAT mode, or let's play best life, because that's what we're living. We're living our best life. And so with that being said, we're going to pump on out of here, skate on out of here, jump on out of here, whatever way we're going to do it, swim on out of here, shuffle on out of here, whatever we're going to do. No, I don't want to hear that one. No, that's not it. No, that's not best life. No, but thank you, Von Erich, for that track. Let's find Best Life. We're going to move on out with Best Life. Thank you so much for being here. See you again. When are we back? Thursday with Dawn B. Meet the author. She'll be here at 7 p.m. in the Bravo with Sheila Network. She will be here doing her thing, doing what she do. With what she does, I should say. And we got a new show hitting the stage the first week of Monday of February. My daughter and her partner has a show. They'll be on every Monday. Excited about that. I tell you, I'm gonna snatch you up, Brown Eyes. And anyway, here we go. I'm gonna snatch you up, Brown Eyes. So even though you have your, wait, let's give your handle. And yes.
Oh, well, it's Community Vibes with Brown Eyes on YouTube, on Instagram, and on Facebook. Our live shows that I usually go on once a month right now is on YouTube at Community Vibes with Brown Eyes. Stop by, leave your comments, and give me some suggestions if you like.
Yeah, she'll be back here though. I'm kind of, yeah.
Assume nothing, judging me for my past, but that's why I'm triumphant. I don't demand, I know where I stand like engineer hands. Watch how my life pan, put that game plan. Show out like a drotter, pop out like a cutter. Telling the quick rock, skipping the cookie square like hopscotch. This gonna be my mood to my beat drop. Putting my boogie shoes in my ditty boots, ain't no stop. I'ma make the rest of my life live. Yeah, I'ma make the rest of my life live. Gonna make the rest of my life the best of my life. Yeah, I'ma make the rest of my life live. I'ma make the rest of my life live. Gonna make the rest of my life the best of my life. Congratulations on the celebration. I know I'm dope without a need of a validation. No congratulations on no celebration. I know I'm dope without a need of a validation. Yeah. If having hope is dangerous, call me evil Knievel. You leaning on the wrong side, living with pens and needles. So lethal, made Shane Black wanna write a sequel. Cause I snuggle my dream till it's seen as illegal. And I still probably will, cause I can never give up. I got my goals calling me, how could I never pick up? Either we make up or just break up. And the snake kids get the rake up. Yeah, selfish, I'ma cake up if I don't shake me to wake up. Let my depression catapult me to succession. Shine a light on my imperfections like a projection. Every struggle a lesson, your issues ain't your oppression. Never got a question, keep pushing me to progression like I'ma make the rest of my life live. Yeah, I'ma make the rest of my life live. Gonna make the rest of my life the best of my life. Yeah, I'ma make the rest of my life live. I'ma make the rest of my life live. Gonna make the rest of my life the best of my life. Congratulations on the celebration. I know I'm dope without a need of a validation. No congratulations on no celebration. I know I'm dope without a need of a validation. Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome. So